These are the only exercises you have to do in your calisthenics routine to make progress, to squeeze all the gains possible from strength training. And if you haven't really thought about it, this is where you get the answers. In calisthenics, there are tons of exercises and tons of skills that you can do, which actually leads you to being confused whether you should do exercise A or exercise B. How many exercises should I do simultaneously? You don't want to be that guy that trains 10, 12 main exercises in one training program simultaneously and basically makes zero progress in each and every one of them because he lacks focus, okay? You can't train everything simultaneously. And since we don't really have a few designated movements that we get judged on, or basically we put our vector, that our attention on, like let's say if you're a powerlifter, at the end of the day the competition is squat, bench and deadlift. So everything must be performed in order to increase strength in bench, squat and deadlift. In weightlifting, you eventually get judged by the snatch and the clean and jerk. In calisthenics, you can basically choose whatever you do, but not all routes are the same. Some exercises are much more beneficial than others. And here are the key points. Here are the guidelines. What makes an exercise great and what does not. And if your exercises don't include each and every one of those key points, then they are not a good exercise. They have to have all four of those key points. And by the end of those 4 key points that we will go over, I will give I will name the exercise that I think that are must have in your calisthenics routine. So these are true for barbell, dumbbell, calisthenics, gymnastics, whatever you do, okay? I believe, I know it's a hard cut, I'm a hard judge, but exercises must be objectively measured. That's the first thing. If you can't measure it in the long term and in the short term, then you don't really need to perform it. It's a useless exercise. And it has to be relatively also accessible, because I've seen people like judge with sort of angles and apps on their iPhone, how much degrees is their L-sit. This is not objectively measured for me, okay? It has to be sets, reps, load, rest intervals, if you time, duration, if it's an isometric thing, or a sprint, let's say, it has to be objectively measured. Sure, you can have some play in your training, it doesn't make you a bad person, but you will not anchor your training around subjectively performed and measured exercises. So your exercise has to be objectively measured. It can be like even a jump, a bound jump. You have to be able to measure the distance, and quite easily, and the number of jumps, and obviously if it's handstand push-up, the range of motion, the number of repetitions, sets, and so on. The second thing is compound movements. You already heard about them. Compound movements, why do we have to perform them? Because they are the most bang for your buck exercises. Compound movements are movements where you work multiple joints simultaneously. So let's take the chin up. The elbow and the shoulder simultaneously are dynamic joints. So both of them move, meaning most compound movements by definition they work more muscle group because they move more joints. So they work more muscle mass. Usually the amount of muscle mass that you work, more muscle group that you work, leads directly into being able to overload the movement, to lift more weight. So in the chin up, in comparison, let's say, to a body weight curl or a bicep dumbbell curl, where you only move the elbow. Here in the chin up, I also move the shoulder joint in extension, therefore engaging the lats, posterior delts, and so on, more bang for your buck. Less exercises, less time invested, more muscle mass, more gains, more strength. In calisthenics, though, we have some really valuable exercises that are not necessarily multi-joints. They are single joints, but they do accomplish some of the compound movement benefits, like more muscle mass. We can take the planche press to handstand. It is a highly complex, highly neurologically demanding exercise because you have the balance aspect and so on. It also has a big range of motion, significant range of motion, and it works a lot of muscle mass, although technically only the shoulder joint is a dynamic joint within that movement. Therefore, I invented the term complex movement, which is the equivalent of compound movement in the barbell lifting world or whatever. So it has to be a compound or a complex movement. Body weight, tricep extension, ring curls, pelican curls, they are not compound, not complex movement. They are not neurologically demanding. They are not bang for your buck. They don't include enough muscle mass in one movement, in one exercise. They don't work enough muscle mass. That's what I meant, excuse me. Therefore, they are not an exercise that you have to perform, you need to perform. No. Your routine can be perfect without them. It doesn't have to say that I forbid you from doing them. Okay, there is some place for pelican curls and tricep extension, but they will not make the big difference in your routine. You do not have to do them for good to achieve calisthenics, the most advanced skills. The third key point that your exercise must have in order to be a good exercise, in my view, range of motion. It has to be worked over a long range of motion to strengthen more, basically first to mobile you, okay? What does mobility mean? Strength over a long range of motion, including the weak part of the range of motion, and usually longer ranges of motion exercises work more muscle groups as well, okay? So let's say if I row, but I only row up to here, I miss a lot of posterior delt action, which is mostly recruited from the point of the elbow being at the line of the body and past that, okay? So same exercise, row, but performed over a longer range of motion is a better exercise because I also strengthen the extreme shoulder extension and strengthened more musculature, more muscle groups, because some muscle groups take a bigger portion, more significant portion within different parts of the range of motion. So if you only train, let's say, the upper portion or the upper end range of motion, you miss a lot of activation. So at the end, there's not a lot of lats activation, so you'll not be able to overload the lats as you would if you start all the way from here, stretch the lats, and boom. They are mostly dominant within the first half of the range of motion where the elbows get to the line of the body. So that's one example, but again, in calisthenics, there are a few points where it really, specializes them, differentiates them between just a regular gym or barbell training that you wouldn't have known if you wouldn't go over it. So the complex movement, that's a first, but also calisthenics by nature uses a lot of training methods to really gap between exercises and skills. And one of them is isometric training, which used to be also performed in old men, strong men, and barbell training, powerlifting as well. In the past, they were performing a lot of isometric holds, yielding isometric, overcoming isometric, where actually push against an unmovable object, which is slightly different than, let's say, holding a one-arm chin-up isometric hold, where you resist going down. It's different. If you train the weakest link within that range of motion, you would usually get stronger throughout the whole range of motion. Let's take the planche push-up for example, phenomenal exercise. The harder portion for anyone who tried planche push-up, you know, is the lockout. You will, if performing planche push-ups, you will fail just shy of lockout or at lockout and you will fail. Holding it at the bottom is relatively easy. The lockout position is the weakest part of the range of motion. Therefore, by just training isometrically the planche static position, where the elbows are straight, you will strengthen the whole range of motion. So you have to remember it. If you train the weakest part of that range of motion, it will strengthen everything. People who get strong with, let's say, straddle planche isometric holds, they will naturally have straddle planche push-ups and straddle planche presses to handstand, full ranges of motion exercise, although only training isometrically. I naturally had a direct carryover. Once I had 12 seconds for one set straddle planche hold, I can already perform a straddle planche push-up and straddle planche overhead, press to handstand, excuse me. And I didn't train it previously. It was just training the isometric position. Okay, so those two key things are special for calisthenics really. And the last one, your exercise must be progressible over a long period of time. If you can progress with that exercise only for, let's say, 6 months, because you can really overload it. You have a very fair, clear ceiling of where you can take that exercise, which usually it happens with underloading exercises that you can really load significantly. Or, even 5 years. If you can't see past 5 years with that exercise, it's not a good exercise. It sounds like a lot, but it's not that much. I already trained for about a decade, like consistently. And when training, some of the exercises have been, a staple from a decade ago, like push-ups. And at this stage, I'm still progressing with the push-ups. They are progressible over a huge period. I can put 100 kilograms on me. I can do one-arm push-ups. I can do ring push-ups. I can take push-ups to planche push-ups and so on. Progress in a different way, a whole completely different way. So there are many ways to progress over a long period of time. I'm talking decades. Okay? You have to have all of these. Okay, if your exercise don't have all of this, if they neglect one key point from the 4, they are not good exercise in my opinion. And now I'll give you the 5 must-have exercises in your calisthenics routine to get the most bang out of your back. Okay, what in my opinion are the 5 must-have exercises? Let's start one by one. And remember, what is must have? Must be. It is for me to maximize results. If you don't care about maximizing results, then you don't really must. There are no must haves. Okay, you can live without them, but you will not maximize your physique in my opinion. Okay, start with the first one. It is the pull or the chin ups. Okay. And I will expand on each and every one of them. What is my thought process? Okay, pull or chin-ups. Overhead pulling is key, is fundamental. It will build a V-shaper, a strong back. It is performed over a huge range of motion. You can progress, for a long time, as much as you really can, and you can think about. Both the pull-up and the chin-ups are great. You can perform mid-grip, chin-up, with supinated, with wider grip, extremely wide pronated grip. There are so many variations that have been performed for centuries, okay? You can take pull-ups towards one-arm chin-ups, towards weighted calisthenic stuff, We see people performing weighted calisthenics. I think now is on a roll. People take the chin-ups for 100 kilograms and above, so you have plenty to progress. You can take it to the oak route. You can take it to just like old school endurance calisthenics. Remember those YouTube videos where people used to crank like 30 repetitions and then do like 10 muscle up? So if you have like 50 repetitions pull up, I bet your back is insane. You can take it, there's no right. There's no right. All of them are tremendous for different reasons. You can take your approach to each and every one of them, but I would say that you have to choose one, okay? And neglecting pull-ups or chin-up altogether, I don't think is a wise choice. The second exercise is a squat, okay? Squats as a calisthenic athlete, they don't have to be like the meat and potatoes, your main exercise. It's fine, you can do them, just to a lesser degree. You don't have to focus on them as much because at the end of the day, it's about enjoying and maximizing longevity and health and performance. And for calisthenics, it's not as necessary, but not doing them all together, I would say, is also, again, not so smart. You can take the squats to the route of single leg squat, pistol, shrimp. There are amazing shrimp variations that you can progress for years and years and years on end. You can take it to the barbell squat route, okay? You can take it to whatever you really want, but squat nonetheless, even once a week. You can use squat as your main exercise in one of the workouts, or you can use squats as one of your accessories, and maybe like a circuit at the end of your main strength exercises of one of your workouts, and include that in your circuits, okay? But not doing squats altogether, I think it's not a wise choice. The third one is rowing. You have to row, okay? And here I named like exact pull or chin up. I didn't say overhead pulling. There are multiple overhead pulling, but pull up and chin ups I named in particular. Rowing is differently, and I didn't opt for front lever, in particular, because I think that you can do it, but it does neglect a few muscle groups that are necessary, and I believe that the rowing will really answer for you that are not included in pull-up and chin-ups. Rowing is more upper back, a lot of traps, rhomboids, posterior delts, and the pull-ups is mostly the lats, okay? And by doing front lever rows, you somewhat miss some of that upper back movement musculature. You can take the rowing again to endurance and build really high reps and do one arm rows, really hard, front lever rows, barbell rows. Okay, you can row in a lot of ways. I love rowing. I haven't heard of anyone who rowed too much. It's really good for you. And the fourth one, and we have only 2 more, so 5 exercises total. That would be the overhead press. You have to overhead press. It is my maybe favorite exercise or movement pattern. Handstand push-up, barbell or dumbbell overhead press. I just like it. I think it's the one true total demonstration of upper body strength, or maybe full body strength, because you have to stabilize everything, and it builds the amazing physique, wide shoulders. What gets better than that? You can take the overhead pressing to obviously the barbell route. It is amazing. The barbell route will also transfer over to your handstand push-up, to the calisthenics exercises, seen by already dozens of students that I taught. and you can take it to the handstand push-up route and build up to full range handstand push-up 5 sets of 5, and then ring handstand push-up, and then weighted. And I've seen people try towards one arm handstand push-up or just regressions of the one arm handstand push-up. You have decades of progress ahead of you with that, really. Really amazing stuff. And the last one I would say, and this is an exercise that I named in particular because I think that it will have benefits that really differentiates between just a strength athlete, not just, but a general strength athlete, and a calisthenics slash a gymnast strength athlete. It is the planche push-ups, okay? I could have said just regular push-ups and then, tell you that you can take it the planche push-ups route, but I think that having a straight arm exercise in your routine will strengthen your arms, like, those gymnast arms, the biceps, the plancheps, as also named, like no other. Okay, this is actually the sort of stuff that makes the gymnast, strengthening the bicep tendon, all the elbow tendons really, and the biceps to such a high degree. That is where you get the straight arm strength training, the gymnast physique, the gymnast strength. Planche push-ups, okay? You don't have to perform them, to the extreme. You can stay with even the tuck. So relatively easier tuck or advanced, but for high reps, and you can build a lot of endurance again, more old school. I like it, no problem with that. The torque on the elbows at the top portion with tuck or advanced tuck is not huge, so you can really overload the movement, and you can take that also to like weighted tuck and so on. And you can take the planche push-ups obviously towards full planche push-up, okay, which will take you, just imagine being able to complete 3 sets of 10 full planche push-ups with 1 second hold at the top. I see a lot of people like crank and bang, and like they put the strength from the bent arm portion and they not really lock. They go through the lock, but they don't hold it, where it is really difficult. They skip the weakest link. So those are not planche push-ups really. But you have decades really of training to really build towards that, even if, you ever get to that. So for me, it's not bringing my spirit down really. For me, it's something good. I think it's an exercise that tells me that I can invest in it, and it's beneficial for the long term. You can take it for the full planche push-ups. You can take your planche push-ups to the rings. You can take your planche push-ups even to Maltese 2 planche push-ups, which is also like one variation of the planche push-ups. So taking that to more of the skills route. These are my 5 must-do calisthenics exercises. This, differentiates between a general strength exercise athlete to a gymnast type of strength and physique, or a calisthenics physique. This is a special one. The rest of the exercises are just great general strength training exercises that are usually also performed in other strength sports because they are so phenomenal. Overhead pressing, rowing, squatting, I think it's the most important lower body exercise. I do enjoy a lot of upper body, but having squats to some degree in your routine, even as an accessory, one-legged squat, barbell squat, dumbbell squat, goblet squat, kettlebell squat is important. And if you are looking for like the minimum amount of lower body work that will give you the most bang for your buck, it's definitely squats. And pull-up and chin-ups, one of the all-time best exercises, where you can take towards that one-arm chin-up strength, multiple oaks, weighted or old-school endurance, having, hundreds of reps, which I really hope that I could perform. all are, for me, they complete the best calisthenics routine.